Welcome to Speaking Cinema Series Movie Jibber Jabber, a movie podcast broadcasting to you from the Vortex, aka Hollywood Planet Earth. Listen to us Jibber Jabber every single Monday. Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, Facebook. You can't escape. Speaking Cinema. If you like what you hear and are so inclined, give us a review. Everyone who listens, who's been listening, help us out. Give us a review.
Just bow to us. We're the giant floating stone head in the sky.
Speaking of which, I am your host, Exterminator, called Mr. Jibber Jabber. Joining me today, as always, our gigantic disembodied stonehead, simply known as Kevin. Kevin! If you're just tuning in for the first time, we are Speaking Cinema, serious movie Jibber Jabber.
We jibber jabber about movies.
On that point, Kev, I'm glad you brought that up. Movies, the concept of a movie. We talk about a concept of a movie, how we feel about it, going into it, have we seen it, blah, blah, blah. Then we take a deep dive, watch the movie. Yeah, we watch a movie for this podcast. And we finish it off by coming back and talk about it, having had seen it, like I just said. All for a contextual conversation about that movie.
And the only thing worth podcasting about.
Movies.
Movies.
Other podcasts about other things, I'll accept professional wrestling, but that's not what podcasting's about. Podcasting is about movies. That being said, I listened to a very interesting podcast about how aquariums and zoos acquire their animals. It's all barter.
Really?
Yeah, you gotta trade like mackerels for jellyfish. Isn't that fucking crazy?
I bet there's a whole chart of like aquarium.
No. Well, it's all based on need. So if you're like, hey man, we really want jellyfish, and the other people are like, hey, we can hook you up with some sardines. It's like, ooh, we got sardines, but how many puffins do you got?
And a rainbow trout before I get them.
And one has to think, like, penguins, man, you gotta go sea lions for penguins. You know what I mean? You gotta.
Yep.
I need marine mammals for penguins.
I got a mammal guy. He's great.
Yeah. So fascinating stuff.
Interesting.
This is season 9 of Speaking Cinema Series Movie Jibber Jabber. What are we doing here in season 9? We're watching movies at request of our viewers. And today will be no different. I have seen the future, and it doesn't work. This time on the Jibber Jabber, beyond 1984, beyond 2001, beyond love, beyond death, 1974's Zardoz.
Is that really the tagline? I've seen the future and it doesn't work.
That's a tagline. Beyond 1984, beyond 2001, that's a tagline. And this is another tagline that I couldn't work into this opening, but I'm glad you brought it up. In a world of eternal life, he brought the gift of death. 1974's Zardoz.
Oh, that one's pretty good, actually.
What, the death
the
in the
death
life?
one. It's like, there's a little irony.
Oh,
to
no,
it. There's
no.
a little.
But nothing beats.
Yeah.
I've seen the future and it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. That should be the tagline for Idiocracy.
There should be a tagline for some movie that we make.
Yep.
Also, if you don't recognize the title Zardoz, you may recognize it. Kev, let me know what you think here. Do you recognize it from the image of Sean Connery with a mustache wearing a red diaper?
That is the first image I ever saw of this movie, and I said Blockbuster.
Yes.
And
what section was it in?
What? Oh, sci-fi fantasy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I always
but maybe it should be in horror. You never know.
I always remember walking in, seeing it and wanting to watch it, like being curious, like seeing like Sean Connery? Like, what is this?
With like a smirk and the gun and the ponytail and the hairy chest and the diaper.
And it probably said, in a world of eternal life, he brought death. We were like, what the fuck is this about?
We didn't know we were getting it.
12-year-old us. Zardoz, written and directed by John Borman.
Yep.
Starring Sean Connery.
Yes.
Distribution 20th Century Fox.
Yes.
Also, who's the girl who's in it?
Charlotte Rampling.
A young Charlotte Rampling.
Yes. A fine-looking Charlotte Rampling. Has been prolific in her whole life.
With acting?
Yes. She's in films like as of last year she was in something.
Yes, whatever, 45 years.
45 years.
And she threw away her Oscar chances by supporting...
Oh, that was her, wasn't it?
She was like, it's not a big... The fact that the Academy favors Caucasian, not a big deal. She didn't say that exactly.
Yeah.
But that was one of those moments where her publicist must have been like, all right, well, this is over.
That was her, huh? All right. Interesting.
If you're not familiar with Zardoz. In the distant future, a savage trained only to kill finds a way into the community of bored immortals that alone preserves humanity's achievements. Thanks, IMDb user Anonymous.
Is that a punk band name, the Bored Immortals? That's kind of good.
Bored Immortals? Nah. Well, we'll get into it. It's a good juxtaposition of words.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that. Bit of background: John Boorman, a director, coming off the success of Deliverance, a movie referred to as
Great
a classic.
little exploitation film from the 70s.
Indeed, but also, a kind of a exploitation movie that's been turned into a real scholastic kind of movie, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like up there with The Godfather and such.
Yeah, it's just one of those gritty 70s thrillers,
Mm-hmm. He had been prepping Lord of the Rings for United Artists. That fell apart due to budget reasons. Fox offered it to fund an original idea he had. That idea: Zardoz. This movie, shot in Ireland, rumored budget $1 million, rumored salary for Sean Connery $200,000, 1/5 the budget for Sean Connery. According to the Blu-ray commentary, Boorman acknowledges that this movie is overly ambitious and strange, that he was trying to do too much, and even goes so far as to invite people to fast forward segments, including the beginning.
Wow.
But he still likes it and still holds it in esteem. He's like,
well, I think
I was trying too much, but it's it's a fun little movie.
I assume when he says the beginning, is it the floating head part where the guy's like basically explaining the plot? Because I think the studio made him tack that on.
I read that as well. I mean, we'll get into we'll get into that, but I haven't seen it. But I heard we both I think read the same article. Yeah, it's like there's a just a description of. The studio made him attach a floating head segment that explains the plot, and it's like, okay.
And he actually had to do it.
It's like, fix this with a shovel.
Pretty much.
As of this recording, you can find this movie on Amazon, iTunes, Vudu, digitally, disc-wise, DVD, and Blu-ray.
Not streaming anywhere currently.
Currently not streaming?
I believe I have seen it on Netflix though.
This feels like a thing that should be streaming.
It should be under the cult movie section on Netflix.
Indeed.
Midnight Cult.
What was your first experience with this film, Kev? We talked. Is it just what we talked about?
Seeing that picture,
Indeed,
is just like, what was Sean Connery up to? And then just kind of hearing the stories about, Zardoz is this bizarre sci-fi movie, and Sean Connery's in a red diaper.
So I had a coworker who worked at the place I worked at. His name was also Kevin. Listen to the podcast. Shout out Kevin if you shall.
And he's the one who recommended this movie.
He did, and his recommendation, and I quote, was, "Have you guys done Zardoz?" And I'm like, "The Sean Connery diaper movie?" And he's like, "You gotta do Zardoz." So this, Kev,
and here we are.
Here we are. This one's for you. I hope you enjoy it. This podcast, no stranger to post-apocalyptic films. Mad Max, we've done 2 of them. Kev, would you say you like that genre?
Sure. A little overplayed, though, I gotta say.
I like
it's
it.
Getting a little stale.
I like it when it's more Mad Max and less The Road.
Okay. A little more playful, not so dire and serious.
Right. Like
I like how in The Road they just went to Pittsburgh and filmed it. Like, this is perfect post-apocalyptic.
I mean, we could just shoot there, right?
Yep. But they didn't have to do much.
Yeah. I mean, we'll put the camera here, and we could just, we point it this way. We're good. I don't like it. I don't like it when it's like, I don't like post-apocalyptic movies when it's like a cautionary kind of like.
You don't want to get lectured.
Yeah, I like it when we're using.
If X and Y happens, then we're going to live in this world.
Right.
And we're going to be eating babies.
I like it when it's more cinematic, when it's like Mad Max is about a guy's world that's been destroyed. And to match that, the world is also destroyed, right? Yeah. But it's reflecting his own personal. You could argue like the entirety of Mad Max is like the reason why the world's falling apart is because he has a wife and a kid, and he fears losing them, and then he does lose them, and then his world falls apart, and it's about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That is much more interesting to me than global warming. Blah blah. Blah. It's like, come on, it's like don't give me this pour me a drink, the world's over shit.
It should always tie back to a human story,
mm-hmm.
basically, because it can get very where all you're doing is just pouring all the post-apocalyptic tropes on top of you.
Indeed.
I think a great example, best recent example besides Mad Max Fury Road, is a video game, The Last of Us,
Yeah.
made by Naughty Dog.
Right.
Because that one's interesting because we're deep into in a post-apocalyptic world, and we've created a society within it that functions in a way. So like that's really cool.
Right, and I would like to, I think if that's a lesson that we've learned, right? It's like you look at all of the times the world was ending: World War II, Cold War, war on terrorism, fucking bubonic plague, the Dark Ages. The world limps on. But you know what I mean? It keeps going.
Yeah.
I think that's a more interesting story of like losing everything and having to live is more interesting than like the threat of just being dead.
For sure. Now, what do you think about a utopia type story?
From
what I understand, this weaves in a little bit.
Well, utopia stories are always utopias disguised as disguised dystopias.
Yeah.
And I've never seen anything that really gets my goat. You know what I mean? Like
The utopias never seem like a place I want to hang out.
right,
You know?
right.
It always seems a little sterile.
The closest thing I've ever seen to that is like maybe some Star Trek episodes. You know what I mean? But like, there's never been a movie like what's that one? Logan's Run or anything. It never really made anything to me.
Sure.
So, good
But
question.
everyone's just getting laid all the time in Logan's Run, though. It's just a big old sex party.
Yeah, but then it's like there's always this like very obvious conspiracy. I've never seen anyone. I've seen like they always show you the cool, the fucking. It's out. Like, what's utopia? Like like boobs, cheeseburgers, and no consequences, right?
Yep.
Duh. But no one's ever like subverted that in a way that I find to be really interesting. And maybe I just haven't seen a movie like that. You know what I mean?
Yep. Maybe it's
out there.
Maybe it's Zardoz.
We'll find out. Are you familiar with director/writer John Borman?
I have seen Deliverance.
I have not.
I think it is an exceptionally well-made movie.
Have you seen Excalibur or even The Exorcist 2, which I have also not seen?
I have not seen either of those.
Okay.
There's a funny story from Deliverance that I've read before. It's one of my favorite like behind-the-scenes movie stories.
Uh-huh.
There's a scene where Burt Reynolds' character goes over a waterfall. And they were originally going to do a dummy, but then Burt Reynolds was all about, I don't want it to look like a dummy going over a waterfall. I'm going to do it. And everyone's
Was this
like,
a big waterfall?
It's a good sized waterfall. It's not like the colossal, huge in Venezuela waterfall, but it's a good sized rapids waterfall. Anyways, he insists on doing it. He's like, I'm gonna do it. And John Borman's like, okay, we'll do it. They shoot the scene. He goes over the waterfall. He like breaks a bunch of bones in his body. Goes into the hospital. And then John Borman visits him in the hospital, and Burt goes, hey, how'd it look? And John Borman said, looked like a dummy going over a waterfall.
Yes!
That's just a great story.
Wow, so good.
Yep. But you can tell in that movie, that's Burt Reynolds going down that waterfall. So.
That's great.
Yep.
Also, Kev, I'm not as familiar with water parks as perhaps you are. Is there a water park ride that ends with you being tossed, like, off a waterfall?
You can find it at most, like, water slide type places where the slide, like, ends on a vertical drop.
No. Like, the slide ends and you free fall, like, 10 feet.
Yeah, I've seen those before.
Okay, good.
I
Good.
know.
It's good. I'm glad
I don't know if it's 10 feet, but it's a decent drop,
Not 10 feet?
I don't know. There's probably some extreme water park out there that has that.
That would be fun, though, right? If
Sure,
you go down to your little thing and then you, like, you fall, like, it pisses you out and you just take a tumble. Also, is there any water park that like spits you out so fast that you like skip across the water like a rock?
There's one in Canada actually that I went to. It's not the Edmonton Mall. There's some mall that's got a huge water park in it, and there's two slides.
A water park in the mall?
A water park in the mall. This
Indoor
mall
water
is
park.
Colossal, and this water park within it is colossal. Anyways, there's these two water slides, and you get going so fast on them that you do like skid over the water a bit. Especially if you're a little bigger person, and you just kind of, and then you sink.
Also, is that what we should be doing? Should we be doing indoor? All the abandoned malls in America, should we be turning those into water parks?
Just a gigantic water park.
And you could go any time of the year, and it's like heated pools and like
Yep. I mean,
Also,
in Canada, it's essential because it gets cold.
is there a water park in LA? I've never been to like a water park.
And we should go to a water park sometime. I don't know where any of them are.
Where I grew up, there was one, but it had a reputation for like, you know, every 4th of July, some gangbanger got stabbed.
Oh, okay.
You know, so it's like I really don't want to get stabbed.
Yeah, we should find a water park out here. Go water parking. It's a good time.
Okay. Back to this. What are your expectations for Zardoz?
I'm hoping it has this reputation of being this kind of camp classic. So is it gonna be so bad it's good? That's what I want. You know, just something else you can quote with your friends the same way you quote Plan 9 from Outer Space in The Room and all those. So I wanted to be on par with that.
See, I want this to be like Phantom of the Paradise, which is an episode we've done in the past, where it's great and just no one knows it's great, or people do know it's great. That's why it was in fucking Blockbuster.
Yeah.
But we'll find out.
We'll find out.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Kev, we're back.
We're back with Zardoz.
How'd you watch it?
Watch it on Amazon Prime.
I did as well.
SD.
Yep.
2-day rental. $3.
I think my rental might still be good if we want to watch it after this. When I searched for Zardoz, 2 movies came up for some reason. Zardoz on the left, Death Spa on the right.
Death Spa, huh?
I look over to Emily and I say, we should be watching Death Spa. Emily says, no, you should be watching none of these. And then she stomped out of the room. So, this is the part of the podcast where we get into what we think about the movie. I don't know who should start. Who do you feel like you should?
I'll give it a start here.
Okay.
So I said in the first half, I was hoping for a camp classic.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is way too high-minded on itself to be campy.
Can I interject?
Yes.
High-minded in the dumbest way.
Oh yeah. In absolutely the dumbest
Like
way.
it's like when your drunk friend starts trying to tell you what's up, and you're like,
And it's
"You're
just
not
like-
smart sober, bro."
It's just fucking like we should all just be immortal, man. And like get laid all the time, man.
Or like when your friends giving you, they're like, "America, 5 more years. That's all I got left. 5 years."
Yep.
It's like, what is that? Like, I think there is going to be another civil war. I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be good. It's like, fuck you.
Yep.
Fuck you.
And that friend wrote their sci-fi version and called it Zardoz. It tries to tackle so many things. It wants to be about feminism, war, aging, sex, memory, the like loss of memory, technology. It wants to be all these big sci-fi
Family.
concept that every, that something like it makes its intentions clear. It's trying to be like 1984. It's trying to be like 2001: A Space Odyssey. But unlike those movies, it looks like they bought everything at Spencer's Gifts and just threw it on the screen. Because it's incredibly high-minded of what it wants to do, but executes it in a way that is completely out of its grasp. And also, Sean Connery really feels like he kind of just showed up. He's not pouring his best into this.
I'm with you. Fuck this movie. We might be done with requests. Corey's Fresh.
We have gone to the major extremes here.
Right. Corey's Fresh was such a great recommendation, but this movie makes me want to be like, no, Kev, this is you and me podcast, and fuck everybody else. This movie is painfully dumb.
And very, very slow.
And it's
very dumb.
The thing is, it's not like it's not like so bad. There's worse movies that exist.
Yeah.
There's worse movies that exist, and there's more offensive movies that exist. But where this movie ends up wanting to go is so the lowest common denominator of fake critical thinking that it's just like fuck you, man.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you. Like, this idea, and we'll get into this more in detail in a minute, but like, the idea that living forever would be lame is a thing that someone who is going to eventually die says to justify their own existence.
Yeah.
That's not true. Living forever would be awesome. You know, let's get into it. Look at the fucking difference in the world between 1900 and 2000. 100 years.
Which is a very sliver of time that this world has existed.
We figured out how to fly. We figured out how to fly. For 17 seconds, Kitty Hawk, fucking North Carolina. Wow.
We did.
And then where'd it go? Then we started crossing bodies of water, developing an infrastructure for planes, to create planes. We created fucking international travel. We created national international travel. And then a new way to...
In a fraction of the time that it normally took, which is by boat.
And you
didn't get scurvy.
Modern aviation. Then we took that technology and fucking left this planet and went to the nearest planetary body next to us. In less than 60 years. But,
That's insane.
And
you would witness all of those moments.
Right.
If you lived forever.
And then that's...
And you know what? If you're bored and you live forever, it's like being bored in LA. It's your own fault.
And that's...
There's so much shit to do.
Exactly. And that's just looking through the small, minuscule thing of what you just said. The last century, right? If you expanded that to just expand it to the fucking view of America. If you were an immortal person and you were fucking... The first thing that you did with the first interesting thing you saw in your life was the American Revolution. You lived from when slavery was slavery to now when a black guy's president.
And that's not a big chunk of time when you really put it into context.
Yeah. So
there are churches in England that are older than that span of time.
Right.
You know?
So this idea that like living forever would be lame, like maybe after like 20 million years it'd be lame, but not after 200. Also, this movie takes place in 2293, so 300 years from now, approximately.
Yeah.
That ain't enough time to see the universe, homie. That just isn't.
It's not. We've already established what can happen in 300
and
years.
they're like, and in this movie, they just so fucking brazenly brush off. Oh, you've been to the stars? Yeah, we found out there. Nothing. It's like you have the technology to die and have your consciousness be reborn in a new body. Like, you don't think it'd be interesting to live a whole life if that was possible? You don't think like living a whole new life as a woman would be different, as different races, building civilizations? If you're God, you could build a fucking civilization. You could build new creatures. You can. Come on. Bullshit.
It's all bullshit. Yeah, it's this a very cynical point of view.
So cynical, Kevin!
And maybe based in a time in the 70s when we're in the throes of the Vietnam War where a lot of things are very cynical, you know? And it is this... And also, we'd all just be better off dead at this point.
And there's also this weird... like, okay, so it's totally cynical. And the opening monologue with the floating head.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is supposed to make people not confused?
Yeah. Oh, this is a satire. It's like, what?
It's like, does God work for the entertainment industry? So I feel like it's half Vietnam, half death of the studio system.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, there's no future in this, so fuck you, audience. And it's like, man.
It reeks of just a producer being like, perfect.
And that, maybe if you rewatch the movie, that opening thing would make sense to you.
I assure you I will never be rewatching this.
but
yeah, maybe
to a first time viewer, that is just pure confusing.
Yeah, it's nonsense. It doesn't help at all.
This movie makes no sense.
It really doesn't. It just nothing's really connecting it from one scene to the other. And it doesn't help that Sean Connery, that dude was doing one take and he was done with each one. Like, he is doing the minimal amount of acting that he needs to do to get through each line.
When he goes into like the pyramid, which I believe is the tabernacle, and he throws his arms up like he's starting to fall, it is just like, whoa.
Yeah, I called it his getting into the triangle motion.
And when the movie started, so Emily watched the trailer and was very put off by the trailer. I watched that trailer and I was like, this could be fun. And so the first scene with the floating head came up and I'm like, oh, maybe she was right. And then the head gives this bizarre speech like,
the gun is good.
The penis
is evil.
And they're talking about the desire to kill and be bad. I'm like, well, at least this is just batshit crazy. Like, that's good.
And then the guns go,
and he pukes out all the guns.
It's like, okay, maybe we're on to something here.
And then the rest of the movie, I mean, it's almost as if the movie is told from the perspective of the immortals where they feel like life is pointless.
Yeah.
But then it's like, but it doesn't make any sense because it's from Zardoz's point of Zed's point of view, and it's not in Zardoz's point of view as a secondary character. And if life is pointless, there's no need to explain so much, right? The movie just keeps explaining things, but nothing has any stakes.
Yeah, well, we have the scene where it's like, oh, we're accessing his memory. Oh, but he's blocking the memory. And then we just move on to this whole other thing of like, this is why we're immortal. But then we have these invalid people that we put in their own little house.
It's literally
and
like...
then we're going to move on to this other transport thing we can do.
It's literally like someone explaining the multiverse of a franchise or something. Like, it'd be like, like Pokemon has like this huge universe with all these different backgrounds and what do you call that? Like lore, right?
Yeah.
It's as if someone's explaining that lore to you about something that you don't care about. Like, I don't need to know the lore of Yu-Gi-Oh! You know what I mean? But it's like someone's explaining it to me. Like, so in the beginning there was a card, and it's like no, I don't need to know this shit. And that's what this whole movie is. They keep explaining stuff, and it's like, why don't you explore this more?
Yeah, we're not playing in this world. We're just constantly telling you what this world is. And oh, by the way, we're gonna just hammer the themes into you.
Right,
like
and that's the thing is that it's not pointless. It just feels that way.
Yeah,
right. It's like I think, and Kev, let me know what you think about what I think. I think there's something of this movie that's about the first world exploiting the third world, right? Because they all live in privilege, but they find that to be tediously boring. Meanwhile, they're benefiting off this other economy of slavery and death squads and stuff. And it's like, I'm like, am I imagining too much there? And then there's like it's like and I had to get this from reading, like, doing the research on this episode. It's like the people in the post-apocalyptic area that's all desolate, they're supposed to be growing the wheat that the immortals eat, but the immortals can generate new bodies. So how can they? Why do they need?
Why do they need to eat?
Yeah, like, why do they need farming?
Yeah,
they're eating their green bread. That green bread.
Also, the scene where he's distributing the bread and he's just completely indifferent, just like throws it.
Yeah. That was good.
Throws it.
That was good. But nothing has any impact. For a movie that's about like the joys of violence, the violence is soft. It's very soft.
It's very 70s where it's like boom, and then somebody lurches back.
Yeah, throws themselves. Yeah. And for a movie about death, there's just no stakes. There's no respect for death at all. There's no. Yeah. It's like they're talking about death like
there should have been a moment where somebody of like their group dies and it blows their mind because they're immortals. They haven't seen anybody die. It's like in Children of Men when they see the baby for the first time.
Exactly.
Spoilers for Children of Men.
Exactly.
Where it's just like they don't even know how to handle it because they've forgotten even what that is.
And it's bizarre because it's so steering the opposite direction of how we view the world. Like, death is about pain, loss, suffering, right? Like, death is something we all fear, we don't want to deal with, but is inevitability to a lot of these things. And like, this movie, I feel like it's such a panic denial of all of that with no coherent thesis.
Yeah.
To be like, it's not like Zen Buddhism where it's like, hey, if something is inevitable, you just must accept it. It's like, no, this is good. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
You live in 300 years and now you're bored of life. Like, yes, come on.
Get out of your country house.
Yeah.
In the hills.
Indeed.
Then maybe you'd find something. I mean, I guess it implies that, the rest of the world is desolate and this is like the only utopia. But I don't believe that.
It's so smug. It's so smug.
Yeah.
So smug.
And also when he tries to leave the vortex and it's just a pane of glass.
I actually did like that. I like that it was a pane of glass, and then he's like, then Sean Connery is like rubbing his face on it. I feel like everything in this movie is like trying to sell you like, listen, this is what's happening right now, and it's so, there's that so much that it has the opposite effect where you stop listening.
Yeah.
Where he's like, so it's glass and he's like banging on it. I'm like, oh, is it like a? And then he puts his face up to it and it's like, okay. And then there's a scene where he's in the tabernacle and there's a bunch of naked women, which I should be enjoying. And
Should be great.
And they're showing like star charts on them and art and like projecting it against them, and they're like basically like, you know,
Yeah.
like apparently in the future all information will be
Projected through our like ring pops
onto naked women.
onto naked women.
And it's like, that should be really interesting. And it's like, dude, this is so boring.
It's like a lot of. It could be a really cool music video. Some of the techniques they use, but it's again when there's no context to it and it feels like there's no purpose.
Usually we save the sequel pitch for the end, but that is a great sequel pitch that someone just makes a music video for some band.
Yeah.
It
just
and,
does Zardoz.
and it's just Zardoz, and then, you know, so you got the band is playing. Okay, let's fucking figure this out. So it's just, you got maybe the lead singer, maybe just an actor in the Zardoz outfit, in the
red diaper with the bullet
right
Langolier.
Yeah, and they act like suspenders, and then the band, you know, like so you're cutting between that footage and then footage of the band. So the band is playing all dressed up as like the immortals. They're dressed up as the old people. They're dressed up as like the people in the wasteland. They're dressed up as the red diaper people with the masks,
Yep.
right? So you keep cutting between those shots, and then interstitially there's Zard. You know, he's in the big mushroom head thing, and then he's, you know, running around, and they're all voting, and they're all using their fucking magic on him. Yeah.
The band that should do this is King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Should they?
Yes. Great band out of Australia.
Oh, interesting.
This would be right up their alley.
I think Crowbot would also be a good band.
Crowbot would be a great band to do it with. Also, they have a new album coming
Also,
out.
if anyone's listening to this and you don't know who these bands are, go ahead and toss that into Spotify.
Get on there, folks.
Good bands.
Crowbot has a new album coming out.
Oh,
this
do
month.
they?
Welcome to Fat City, it's called. Welcome to Fat City.
That fucking band.
They're great.
Also, Butcher Babies would make a good music
Babies.
video. Although I'm not the hugest fan of Butcher Babies musically.
Yeah. But it could work.
Yeah.
So I guarantee.
They seem like also Butcher Babies seem like some good people though. They seem fun.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to this fucking terrible movie. It's just, it thinks it's super deep. It's so pointless. But its message is like, death is what makes us human, and life is pointless, so don't try, which are two stupid things to say. And it's like, it's the fake rebelliousness of like a suburban kid who listens to pop punk but can't wait to vote Republican.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, AKA like every dude I grew up with. You know, who's like...
Exactly. You're just rebelling against what your parents told you, you know.
And half-heartedly at that.
And half-heartedly.
You're like, I'm going to drink this Mickey's because, you know, my mom, blah, 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 blah. It's like, shut up. Your mom did the same
and
shit.
you're going to hate yourself.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Your mom did the same shit. You know, you are your parents already, you fucking asshole.
Yeah.
And normally I also, why he falls in love with Charlotte Rampling has only to do with the fact that Charlotte Rampling, and I mean this with all respect, is a mega babe in this movie.
Yes, she is.
But, like, that's it. You know, it's like the most superficial of attractions.
Yeah.
Which the movie kind of steers into. Also, the whole concept of, like, and I didn't know this, but I in my research, the guy's point, and everything is so fucking over-explained, but this wasn't. It was that they talk about how all of the males have lost the ability to get an erection.
Yeah.
And he's like, in an immortal society, there's no need for children, so there's no need for sex because sex makes children. So then they lose sexual interest, and it's like, wouldn't the opposite be true? Wouldn't it be like, hey, if we have unbridled technology that, let's say, in a limited population, and like, hey, if you get a disease, like an infectious disease, we can just grow you a new body, so like,
Yeah.
NBD, no big deal. Wouldn't that just be like nonstop orgy town?
You'd think it'd just be nonstop orgy heaven, but it's not.
Right?
Or you'd come up with some technology and like you can't figure out an erection. Well, guess what? We got dildos, folks. Like you can have that.
That's the thing. Is like we traversed the entire universe, but there's no dildo. It just doesn't make any sense.
And then, what about the scene where they give him an erection?
Bizarre. Also, the softcore.
The look on his face is just like, yes, I have achieved erection.
And it's also like, again, speaking to like the fake rebelliousness of this movie, and I feel like the 90s also, no, sorry, the early 2000s had a lot of this too, where there's like a lot of like PG-13 movies that implied there'd be like nudity, but it's like PG-13, so you know it's not. Like, and I think like, Underworld and like a lot of these other movies where it's like, oh, it's so fucking action and it's so fucking sexy, and it's like, you know, a girl in a like, you know, fucking one-piece leather jumpsuit. I mean, it's sexy, but it's not like...
But you're not going to see anything.
Right.
And,
so it's like,
and we know it's PG-13, so you're not going to get a whole lot there.
So it's like, in this movie, it's like, why not just show them with the fucking... Why not go there, right? Yeah. And like, they're like, oh, nudity doesn't matter to us. Nothing matters to us anymore. But it's like, but there's only...
But then why do they have a drawing of a penis? You know?
Right. Exactly. And then...
Why not go that far?
Right. So it's like, aesthetically, the movie is not pushing that boundaries of what it's showing you.
Yeah.
So it just feels so, I mean, appropriately so limp. It's a limp movie.
Very limp. And like, it just, all the set dressing looks like they just bought it either at the thrift store or at Spencer's Gifts. It's like glitter streamers and shitty plastic and just everything looks like a prop. Nothing looks like it's actually part of this supposed future world. You know? It just, that aesthetic, it always just feels plastic.
It feels very cheap.
Yeah.
It's a cheap movie overall. And it's like, you know, a lot of times on this podcast I ask, you know, like, does anything not work? But real talk, what does work here? You know what I mean?
The music's kind of cool. I said kind of.
And it's like, to be fair to it, it's a surreal art film. And personally,
Definitely.
I prefer my surreal art films in the horror genre, aka Under the Skin.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
Or something like Jodorowsky, little El Topo or Holy Mountain.
I'm not really into those movies as much. You know, I find them to be very alienating. None of it, I will say this movie is watchable in that you can follow generally what's happening. Like, I feel like El Topo is like, what the it's like there's like a little person like with a chair in the middle of the desert, there's a bed. It's like, is this... It's like, oh, it's about the death of American Family. I'm like, okay.
Oh, boy.
I'm all for deepness in movies, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, I also like fucking robots, so...
If that's all there is to it, then you're asking a lot of the audience to do. If you're not going to give it a little bit of an entertainment value, then you just feel like you're getting lectured, or you feel like you're just reading, like, a book about paintings, you know? Also, what about... The ending's kind of weird, right? All of a sudden they embrace the family idea and have a kid.
Well, he destroys the tabernacle.
Yeah.
And then his friends invade, and they kill everyone. And he escapes with Charlotte Rampling because they're suddenly in love.
Yep.
And then she's suddenly pregnant. And then I think the aesthetics of that ending sequence are really interesting, where it's just them sitting there in portraits.
Yeah.
And they have a son. And the son grows up and they get these weird green clothes from nowhere. And they grow old and die. And then there's, like, their hand painting is all that's left in the rusted gun.
Yeah.
This is an interesting, like, art piece.
But I don't know. Like anything, it just doesn't really tie into anything we've even been talking about the rest of this movie, you know?
Yes.
It's a lot of disparate, interesting ideas that make a very unsatisfying whole. And it's not even bad enough to be good. You know, it's not even bad enough to be a midnight classic. This would be one of those where I'd probably fall asleep.
That's the thing, is this movie is profoundly boring. It's not like people talking about ion cannons and X-ray machines or whatever, and then you see like erect male penis, and you're like, holy fuck! It's like they imply an erect male penis, and then they just talk. It's so much talking. You know what I mean? Oh, this movie's way too rapey. Way too rapey.
Oh boy. It gets
rapey without consequence. I'm not saying you can't show a rape in a movie, but it's like they're really, you know, it's like there's the people who are apathetic, and he's like molesting her, and then like, you know, it's just weird. He's like, when I rape a woman, I want her to be, you know, thrashing around like the other time I did it. Yeah. This is weird. It's also like, it also doesn't make any sense because he's like, the penis is bad, sex is bad. That's what Zardoz says. Yeah. Sex is bad. So then he rapes a woman, and it's like, isn't that against the rules? Because he's against the seed and all that shit?
Yeah.
It's like, just bizarre.
Yeah. And then, what about the ultimate reveal of who Zardoz is? It's from The Wizard of Oz. That scene is so hokey.
Yeah, what'd you think about that? That was ruined for me.
Oh, I didn't know that was coming, and I was like, it's pretty obvious what you're going for. Two,
You thought it was obviously Wizard of Oz?
like, it's obvious that this is supposed to be some kind of allegory for, like, the same themes that are explored in Wizard of Oz, but to what point? You know, it's
Dying is good. Accept it.
dying, and then
And then at the end of the movie,
and
it's
then,
like,
and then I saw how he got his name, and then put the 2 thumbs over Zardoz. And, oh Jesus! Oh dear! we've gone full Connery diaper.
also, I will say Zardoz would be a cool name for a band, and people dress up like the characters from Zardoz.
Yep, totally do it.
Further to that, yeah,
It's supposed to be this like earth-shattering moment, and it just absolutely is not.
and I think what's even more of a failure is the reveal that Zardoz is the one who revealed it to Sean Connery so that this will all happen, and it's like, okay.
We're trying to do a plot twist in a movie that doesn't even have a plot.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I'm like, is that supposed to slap me in the face? I don't
Yeah.
care.
It's supposed to be this huge reveal, and nothing. Also, another great Connery acting moment, or lack of acting moment, when Zardoz, the head, crashes, and everyone's like, whoa! It's like this big impact. He, like, moves half an inch. Connery wasn't going to be doing the old earthquake acting.
Nope.
Brilliant.
No, he was not. I think this would make a better... So here's my sequel pitch, other than all the other sequel pitches we've done already.
Yeah.
I think this would make a better play. Like, if it was, like, on stage... So it's live and in person, naked people on stage, right? Interesting. Projections on people. And so then you could have these long monologues about life and whatever. I think that would make more sense.
That could make a little more sense. Yeah.
I'm not saying this
Just
is going to be
making
the next
this
fucking
really-
Hamilton, homie. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know,
This very avant-garde,
50-seat black box. Come
Yeah.
on.
like, yeah, this very avant-garde sci-fi play that's more philosophical than narrative.
Right.
It can totally work.
Right on.
Because it sure as hell doesn't work as a movie.
It does. I mean, in the end, we don't like this movie.
We don't like it.
No.
It's, again, too high-minded of itself, but can't focus on anything to do. Isn't bad enough to be good. Feel like I'm getting lectured. It's boring. Connery doesn't show up. There's nudity, and I don't care. And that takes something for me to not care about nudity.
Yeah, it's a weird one. So, sorry, Kev. Other Kev, not you, Kev.
You've sullied my good name.
You sullied the good name of this podcast and got me in trouble with my girlfriend. How dare you? And, yeah.
Also, I watched this at work and was, like, kind of looking over my shoulder a lot to make sure nobody was watching the TV. Or,
Oh,
like,
we should say at this point. We should say at this point. This is not a safe for work kind of a movie.
Don't watch it on your computer. Don't watch it on the TV that has apps on it, like the Amazon Prime app. Just don't do it. They'll put you on some kind of watch list.
Are you on that watch list, Kev?
I might be.
Is there anything else that could be said about this movie?
I got nothing. So it's. I'd hate to say I'm disappointed, but like I don't even know what my expectations.
No,
were
I'm disappointed. I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to be Phantom of the Paradise, and I got this, you know, and I do think it's kind of a pour me a drink kind of a movie, right? Like, woe is me, I have to exist, and it's like, yeah, but you and everyone else. It's like it's that fake. It's so like teenage, right? Where it's like, it's like as we grow older, when you realize that you're completely alone in the world, and at the same time, everything that's ever happened to you has already happened to someone else or a combination of other people too.
Yeah.
And I feel like this movie's like, I have to die. Like, it's like, yeah, but
so does everybody.
yeah, so does everything. So like, stop it.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Until we invent robots that can make us live forever, and I welcome that age. Which this podcast has been a testament to. I've said that from day one. I welcome our robot overlords. Can't wait to get my digital synthetic body.
It's gonna be great.
And yeah, I just don't like this. Don't like this movie.
Me neither.
Oh, I will also say this is now officially the worst movie we've ever done.
Con Air, huh?
This is worse than Con Air by a fucking silver mile. This is worse than Batman vs Superman, and you have to admit this is worse than
8,000 times worse than Bone Tomahawk.
Thank you.
That's for
This makes Bone Tomahawk Oscar-worthy.
This makes Bone Tomahawk into True Grit.
Because at least, because you didn't like Bone Tomahawk, especially the way filmmaking was made or whatever, but at least everything that happened in that movie, in some way, thematically or tonally, made sense, right? Like, that guy's talking about how words are strange or whatever, and it's like, you know, they're bored. He's talking.
Yeah,
it makes sense. This is like, yeah, we went to the stars. This is no big deal.
Yeah.
What?
Way more... Yeah.
I think it's a throwaway
Way
line that
more
ruined this movie for me.
Old man cynical thing that just makes it that much worse.
Mm-hmm.
So, way to go, Zardoz. You are the new bottom.
That's it for this episode. Thanks everybody for listening to our conversation. Come back and join us next episode, where hopefully we will have a better movie. I don't want to be so negative. I mean, Kev, if you're listening, if you haven't tossed this off in frustration, I love you, bro.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
We're just not into
It's
it.
not your fault.
If I watched this movie, now, here's an interesting point. If I had watched the movie when I was 12 years old in a blockbuster, maybe.
Would have been like tits.
Maybe. I mean, I have a soft...
real deep philosophy.
I have a soft spot in my heart for Species. Is Species a worse movie than this? I don't know. Nostalgia.
Well, you watched it when you were 12 and you got it from Blockbuster.
Right. This episode written by Mr. Jibber Jabber, music by Jeff Russell. We are Speaking Cinema. You are the listeners. You be you. Thank you for your digital patronage. We'll see you next time. And you, poor creatures, who conjured you out of clay? Is God in show business too?
Zardoz.